as the rains come down and cool the scorched earth. We're in the Kruger Park of South Africa, and this is Safari Live. What? My name is Ralph Kirsten, and we're in the Kruger Park of South Africa, and conditions have changed, so we're going to be driving out and see what we can find. But please join us on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the live stream on Facebook. We have Sebastian on the camera. And conditions have really changed this morning. From yesterday, it was absolutely scorching. This morning, we've woken up to this rain all over. And from yesterday, the animals were really taking solace in the shade. This morning, it has cooled down completely. We had a bit of a downpour. And you can just see the conditions are completely different this morning. It's going to be quite interesting to see how that is going to change the activity of the animals. As you can see, these wildebeest, they're starting to move off a little bit, but it's going to be nice with the cleaning of all the tracks, and they're going to be moving around a lot more. It's also going to affect the predators with their very high heart rates. When it's very hot, they don't move around so much. So when it's nice and cool like this, it's going to be better for us, better for the viewing, and better for their activity. So it's nice to have this little bit of a change, nice to cool everything down. And we're going to be following these guys shortly. They are just moving off. There's one or two marking. There's one just testing his luck, seeing how the females are receptive. There is a male at the back doing a bit of a marking on the tree there. That would most likely be one of the territorial bulls. And you see that he's using that as an exercise, not only to mark his territory from the glands on his head. That's a scent marking. He's also using that as a visual mark. He will literally make lots of scratches onto that tree. But there he starts to move off now. Maybe another one will come and have a sniff. You see that? Smelling that, smelling the markings. Wow, what a change from yesterday. Everybody was suffering, including us as presenters and guides and cameramen. Everybody was taking on a lot of fluid. And this morning, what a welcome relief. The rain has come down, and it might hamper our drive a little bit. We'll see a little bit later. If it really comes down, we'll have to make a change of plan. But for now, nice and cool, nice and welcoming. And these wildebeest start to, you can almost just see the pleasure in their activity. Almost like us when we got up this morning, it was just a feeling of rejuvenation after all that heat. So I'm going to start up in a minute and we'll start to move off, but for now we're just going to sit here and just see what these wildebeest are going to get up to. They're moving around this plain a little bit. They are quite active. They're not just standing in the shade as they would do when it's very hot. So and added to that, you know, when it's a very clear morning, you have quite a lot of a bigger sort of morning chorus of the birds coming once they wake up. Now it's a little bit damper. And that obviously sort of slows their voice projection through the air. So for energy proficiency, the birds won't be calling as much this morning. Right, I think I'm going to start up and we just move on a little bit. Going to see what else we can find. Folks, I would also like to say a very happy Thanksgiving to all the viewers out there. we all got to give thanks. For us, we're going to be giving thanks for this lovely rain that we're having. It's a very welcome sight for us this morning, but happy Thanksgiving all. All right, and for me, it's very nice. Becca, how much rain does this area get annually? Question from Becca. Well, we're sort of in an area that it receives a decent amount of rain for us in this region, but we're still in a very dry region, but we're looking at below 1,000 millimeters a year. So it's not a real heavy amount of rain if you look at any kind of tropical area. It's actually a very low rainfall, but in terms of South Africa, it's the eastern part of South Africa, which is where we are, running right along down the coast. It is a decent amount of rainfall. If you compare it to the western side, which is very arid and obviously a lot less rainfall, that then heads up into the Namibian parts and the desert regions. So totally different in terms of the rainfall, and that then obviously affects your vegetation. So I think it was Steve on his interview drive that was mentioning about biomes. Now, biomes, this is the savanna biome, and affected by the climate of the specific region, and that will then sort of determine what kind of vegetation you will have according to the conditions, and obviously the rainfall being one of that big part of those conditions. So the savanna, as you would expect, being a very sort of aridy type region, but we've got very good vegetation in this area, large big trees, and the rainfall does support a good amount of wildlife, fauna and flora. Right, so I'm very excited this morning because I do think that we've got a good opportunity of finding predators. When it's cooled down like this, the predators are able to move around more so during the day, more comfortably so, and it's all related to that temperature, that feel, because we took a run yesterday and it was very difficult running in the heat of the day, and you can really feel that, and the predators would feel it too. So on a morning like this, they can continue to move around during the morning and right through the day if it continues with this kind of temperature and this cooling. Now with that very high heart rate of the predators, it's very important for them to relax and keep cool when it's very hot. Otherwise they can find themselves being exhausted. Okay, folks, as I've said, you can see, I will stop when we get a nice point where we can actually see it, but it is very clear now when you see new tracks, because we've got this rain starting to clean the slate, and by the slate I mean over these roads and the clear areas, and when the animals move over the tapestry, we can then see really fresh tracks. And something else that is very, very interesting and fascinating is that when it rains like this, the arthropods and things that are normally under the ground start to expose themselves, like scorpions and frogs and snails, and really, really gets exciting when it rains a little bit like this. I've got a question coming through, but I just need to check. I'm not hearing it quite that clear, so I just want them to tell me that one again, because I'm sure it's an interesting question. B. Wilson, is it raining or is it drizzling? Well, we're sort of in the middle of that. It was drizzling, B. Wilson, but it's starting to rain a little bit harder now. So Obviously it does become difficult for us driving and presenting, and obviously the cameraman is the one who needs to worry the most. He needs to worry about all his expensive equipment in the back there, and as you can see, Sebastian is trying to keep the lens nice and clean and free of all the moisture, because you know how equipment doesn't do very well in wet, moist conditions. So it is going from a bit of a drizzle, it's coming between harder rain, going back towards drizzle. Sometimes you can see off in the distance it's raining harder than where you are, but we just continue and we see what happens. As I say, if it starts to pour down, we've got a backup plan, so never fear. We've got always the indomitable crested francolins calling in their duet, chitter, 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 chitter. And all right, folks, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to go and see if we can find some predators. We're going to see in this rain what we can find, but I think let's introduce Noel to the drive.
Good morning. It's wet. it's I don't know if it's raining or drizzling, but it's definitely wet. No, it's a pretty heavy drizzle. Good morning, good morning. I'm actually in a good mood about it because of the fact that it means good growth and grass and leaves. So I'm Noel, and on camera we have Vildy. Good morning, Vildy. I believe it's 22 degrees, which I think is about 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't forget, we are live, we are interactive. Oh, sorry, 72, not 63, 72. So 22 and 72. We are live, we are interactive. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can follow us on YouTube chat. And as you all know, we love your questions. All right, so I've stopped here so you can see the gray misty morning. I know you were with Ralph watching it earlier, and Villy and I have been having a chat, and what our plan is to find some sort of cat-like creature that will probably be hunkered down, maybe hunting if we're lucky, in the thick bushes. We're actually going to head back towards where Tundi was seen last night with Tristan, and where we had Hassana yesterday morning, and just see if we can pick up anything on them. Other than that, good species to see out in weather like this would be buffalo, if they ever decide to come back. Elephants would be another good one. The bird life, they're going to be a little bit wet, a little bit scraggly, but we had some very concerned guinea fowl as we drove up to Twin Dams here, so we will definitely get some of the more terrestrial type bird species, and you never know, we might finally get our mating tortoises that I keep hoping to show you, and frog life, a bit of frog life. So we're gonna, obviously, there's rain and some beautiful drab skylines here, but we'll head on over to the pans at the bottom just now. Ooh, Snazzy, you're asking a good question. You're asking, do big cats like the rain? Snazzy, in general, the cats don't like getting wet, but this type of drizzle, it's not very heavy, and so it will mask sort of any slight sound they might make in their hunt, so they will enjoy that. If it gets any heavier than what it is now, sorry, I just keep looking out of the corner of my eye, it's coming in, so I'm sort of judging. If it gets any heavier, they're definitely going to hunker down, find a place to not get as wet as possible. With the exceptions, there are some lions that like to swim in the Okavango Delta. I know tigers like to swim in general. We don't get tigers here, but where tigers occur over in Asia. And a friend of mine worked with a young male leopard who liked to dive underneath and catch fish in small watering holes like this. So every now and then you get individuals or prides that are exceptions to the rule. But yeah, they're not the biggest fans. Hey, Snazzy, they're like we have Disprin here, which is kind of like aspirin that melts in the rain. It's like that. Okay. Let's go check our pans on the bottom, and then we'll go check the cut line, and then we'll head back to that spot where we had those two gorgeous leopards yesterday at two different times. And we'll see. Although I have a feeling that Tundi's probably gone back to her den site and is probably much smarter than we are and is huddled up inside of her termite mound being very dry. That would be my guess. But Hassana is probably still lurking about. Now, I was super excited to finally see Hassana yesterday morning. We didn't get to spend huge amounts of time with him, but we got him. And we were just chatting earlier in the day when Vildy and I were tracking him, and Vildy was saying he's a really big male, because I was looking at the tracks and going, yes, but this must be Tingana based on the age of Hasana. And I'm telling you, he's a big boy for his age. Yo, very big. I was impressed. He is going to be a huge male when he gets fully grown. And yeah, I was slowly adding the members of our leopard family from this area into my memory bank, and I enjoyed him very much. The wind is picking up. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. Well, ooh, Becca, you're curious if flash flooding is an issue here. Becca, we had in 2013 and 2012, we had really bad, lots of rain. It was drizzly rain like this, but a little bit heavier over a long period of time, broke some dam walls, and that water came down, and we got flooded quite badly. I was working north of here. I went into town in the morning just to grab supplies, and couldn't get back for a week.
I'm gonna have to drive slowly. Okay, folks, we're still continuing on. We've just actually had to stop and just try and sort ourselves out in terms of the rain. It's not very easy when it's raining like this. On a game drive, we would normally sit, with the guests. We would get everybody with ponchos on. And sometimes there can be a roof on some of these game drive vehicles, but generally the ones in the Kruger National Park, we generally drive without a roof. That helps us to make the experience a lot better, because we want people to be able to see the vultures flying overhead and the eagles, etc. And later in the afternoon safaris, then it's nice to be able to show the stars and do a bit of stargazing, etc. So that's the way that we would normally work. Humans are a lot easier to work with than equipment like this. And I'm talking about when we get the rain, people don't start to shut down. Yes, we might be uncomfortable, but equipment generally starts to malfunction and can actually break down when it gets wet, as you would know. So we did have to stop and try and fix things up a little bit, make it a little bit easier. But as I say, we do also have that plan B. We're continuing along a little bit here. And you're going to start to see, if this rain continues, we're going to have these pools and these little pans starting to fill up a little bit more. But this rain is very welcome. In going into the summer months now, we need this rain to start to rejuvenate all the growth, the vegetation growth. But there's a lot of creatures that wait for this kind of rain, such as your bushveld rain frogs and the African giant land snails they are just below the soil. They've buried themselves in the dry times. They've buried themselves below the soil, and when they feel this moisture coming through from the rain, as Sebastian is feeling the moisture coming through from the rain as well, cleaning the lens, then they start to exit and come out of the ground, because now it's moist on the surface, and that's when they start to carry on with their lives, because during the dry times they literally go into a state of dormancy, waiting for another period of wetness like this. So we can have an entirely different form or groups of animals that come alive at this time, or come out of the ground and start to expose themselves. We do generally get a lot more arthropods coming out, like these scorpions and centipedes, and we generally start to see more millipedes all over the road. So we're going to try and find some of these things, but as I say, we're just continuing nice and slowly. I can't drive too fast because that rain is driving through onto the camera, so we just heading towards a water hole, and we'll see what we can find once we get a little bit closer. As I've said, it's quite an eerie calmness and quiet, and it's almost like those animals are just quietly enjoying the nice cool morning and that wonderful respite from yesterday's scorching heat. I do feel it was well over 40 degrees yesterday. Regardless of what the thermometer said, I felt like it was well over 40 degrees. That is centigrade, well over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Kathy in Ohio, where am I taking you at this very moment? Well, Kathy, I'm taking you on a game drive, but I must be honest, I'm still learning the roads. So for me, when I am learning the roads, when I'm in a new game reserve, which I have done very, many times, going to a new reserve, I like to just bumble along, and obviously I have checked the map out and I've driven around a few times, but when I'm trying to learn the roads, I generally take some new roads that I haven't driven on before and see where it goes, see where it comes out. And I tell you what, it's very often these roads that I start exploring that generally produce good game. So we'll be lucky if we find something coming along. But I like also moving along these little drainage lines. Yesterday was nice and hot. The drainage lines do, for me, generally produce quite good experiences and animals coming out. So as all of us are, I'm going to continue looking for some predators, and I think Noel might be doing the same. So we'll head off to her.
Ralph, I am doing the same, although that being said, I don't know how well I'm doing yet. We're just busy checking the area where we had Tundi yesterday afternoon and Hasana yesterday morning, and trying to find tracks in this type of weather. It's been going sort of most of the night, and I think on my roof last night I heard some heavier rain, so the tracks would need to be from sort of now-ish for us to really pick up. But yeah, we're also just, with weather like this, the best you can do is just bumble around. Sweet History, you're wondering if the rain helps the cats with ticks and bugs latching onto them. Nah, they're gonna get ticks and bugs no matter what you do. I get bitten by ticks every time I go walking in the bush. They're just there. It just happens. So unfortunately, no, the rain just makes us wet. It just makes us and the cats wet. But see, it's lightening up just a titch. We are a little bit higher as well. This is not bad hunting weather, to be honest with you. Not bad at all. I've come across lions in weather like this, hunting very successfully, very successfully. And also in weather like this, because it's been raining quite a bit, and you can see I've got some nice taller grass. Oh, hello, Impala. I've got some nice taller grass just to the side and front here. They don't like to necessarily walk straight through that grass. It makes them uncomfortable, so they tend to go more on the road. So maybe we'll get sticks or nkuhumas, you never know. Impala. So they also are not minding this little bit of drizzle. If it was heavier, they would be also hiding underneath cover a little bit. But as you can see, they're out there. They were feeding as we popped up. This female is just looking at us. So remember, with rain like this and a little bit of wind, it is going to take away their sense of smell and their sense of hearing a bit. I know we chat about this often, but it really is imperative. I think we forget as humans, because we use our eyesight so much, just how hearing and smell is really an important factor for survival for the species that we look at. So they're going to be hyper vigilant this morning on their quest to get food, get water, and basically to survive and make it through the night. Sorry, let me just fix this quickly. And looking a little bit chilly, a little bit beraggled there. it's better, look, rain like this, the reason why we have rain in the summer has many different factors, but our summer months are very warm, so when it rains like this, it's not going to create sort of hypothermia. If we get out of season rain or an out of season cold snap, then that can cause a lot of problems. So it is wet this morning, but it's not cold, it's not uncomfortable. Like we had a few weeks ago, that wet that came through also came through with a bit of a cold front, and it was really, 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 really cold. I think at one point we're in like something like 15 degrees. All right, so these impala are not being eaten by Hassan or Tandi. They have survived through the evening, and they're busy surviving through the morning. So we're going to carry on and let them survive, and we will carry on with our quest to see what is out here. And keep the questions coming. They're great. We love them. Ginger Wanderling, you are requesting to see some elephants. I will definitely put that on the list. I had a MacGuffin this morning, so MacGuffin is when you see something and you go, oh, it's this, and it's nothing, it's something like a log. And we were just getting out, and I got super excited. I'm like, yay, it's an elephant! Nope, it's a funny looking brunch. So we're definitely in the mood for that, but hopefully we'll find you hopefully we'll find you a real one and not a MacGuffin and not a Noel moment. All right. Now, if I were going to be nice to us this morning and I were a leopard or lion, I would make myself visible so that we can pick you out, but as you know, they don't do that. And Murphy does enjoy to give us the runaround. So we chat about Murphy quite a bit. Murphy's Law, anything that can happen will happen, and Murphy definitely has a sense of humor in the bush, that is for sure. But that being said, Murphy's not necessarily cruel, he's not shame. He'll give you what you need, but he makes you work for it, pretty much. Okay, so we've done half of our loop. I just want to check for tracks here. And I'm not, or have not, picked up anything as of yet. So we will finish. Oh, there's a slender mongoose. Sorry, I'm just going to try and move the car without. Don't run away, slender mongoose. Stay where you are. Can you get him? All right. Vildy says, perfect. Thank you. All right. Slender mongoose. So we see lots of dwarf. We don't get to see as much slender. Oop, and then down into the termite mound. We were talking the other day about the chimneys that are inside termite mounds and how they have the airflow. That's a type of chimney. Sometimes the termites just build up a chimney like this and then open it, and then sometimes inside the large mounds you get chimneys like that. And so he's escaped down there. He may or may not be living in there. Or it just is escaping from us, but that's pretty much a slender mongoose sighting. Every now and then you'll get a bit of a longer one. Now I want you to notice, compared to the dwarf mongoose that we see a lot of the time, those dwarf mongoose are very small and furry and very dark, and this one is more long and slender. I did do a bit of homework, by the way, and I checked on the size of the dwarf mongoose, and the average size that I'm getting is closer to sort of 25 to 32 centimeters, which would mean it's much less than a foot. Because the other day we were talking about the conversion between the sizes and that they're roughly the foot. I'm going, yes, but they're much smaller than that. So I think the original numbers I had were the absolute expanded range, and then when I went to go check my Bible, my big mammal hardcover Bible that I can never travel with anywhere when it involves an airplane because it just weighs too much, I'd never be able to bring anything, my Skinner and Chimimba, it gave out really nice estimates of the numbers in a beautiful little table. So we're going to go with their sort of 28 to 32 up to about 34. So if this is a foot roughly here, they are about this size. So basically from right below my tan line right to my my elbow crease. That's how large a dwarf mongoose is. Now a slender mongoose from tail to tip is going to be a little bit longer. We're going to look sort of from nose The body is probably down to here, and then they've got a long tail that will come up, so they're going to be much larger than those dwarf mongoose, and usually solitary like we just saw now, and usually during the day. So dwarf mongoose in groups, banded mongoose in groups, both diurnal, both daytime. Slender mongoose usually solitary and diurnal daytime, and then something like a white-tailed mongoose, which is much bigger. I mean, we're talking big, is going to be nighttime and also relatively solitary. Mongoose species. We talk a lot about mongoose. I think I've talked more about mongoose this past month than I have, you know, in a very long time. Probably in about a year. But it is something, especially with the way that our cameras work, we really, when we can get close to them like we did now, we get really good visuals of them. So it's almost sometimes better than, you know, getting your binos out and looking at through your binos. Alright, Hassana, where might you be? Okay, so my friend Rolf is on the other side of Juma. He's driving in the rain like we are, so let's head over to him and see if he's less wet or more wet than we are over here on the eastern side.
So folks, continuing on, we're still on the search. I hear that there's a request for elephants, Loxodonta. So we're gonna have a very good attempt at trying to find some elephants for you. If we don't, we'll have a little chat about them anyway. But it's a very nice day for that, and we're just trying to find some of the little. I'm looking for some of the little arthropods that will start to exit from the ground, as I was saying earlier. But for the time being, we haven't seen anything just yet. But we're going to continue on and see what we can find. It's always exciting to see what we're going to come across, and every time we go out in the field, we always see something new, which is what keeps me coming back for more. And I'm sure that it does interest you guys as well, because why else would we be out there? Let's just have a look. It's not anything that amazing, you know, for a lot of people. That there's a little Cape turtle dove walking around there. Now if Seb can just move in a little bit, and excuse us for any of the poles that you might see. A little bit to the right, Seb. There he is, going in there. That's it. Okay, folks, so this is the Cape turtle dove. Some people also call it the ringneck dove, because of that black marking on the back of the neck. Now you can see what he's doing. He's foraging, and he's a little bit wet on the wings there as well, but he's foraging, looking for seeds. They are seed eaters. There's another one there in the background. So we've got a lot of little birds on the ground. I think it's a little bit more difficult for them at this time with the rain like this, but you know, the show must go on. They need to continue looking for food, and life doesn't wait for anything. So that was just a little bit of life that I did see while we were driving, so we just thought we'd stop and have a look. But let's continue on a little bit of a slow start this morning. As I said, with that rain coming down, things are almost just feeling it out, seeing what's happening. As it continues, they will start to get a little bit more active. But it's such a wonderful feeling, that cooling off. Wow! I'm excited about this. The next couple of days is going to be nice to be out on walk. Right, now from us out here in the Kruger National Park, where it's rainy and wet and getting a little bit sodden, let's move out to Jamie in the Mara, which is totally different in the sun.
To the rainy, wet and sodden Masai Mara. So it seems as though the Juma and the Masai Mara teams are thoroughly in tune with each other. A very good morning to all of you. My name is Jamie. This morning Craig is on camera with me, and we are, as Ralph has told you, in the Masai Mara in Kenya. So how amazing is that? You get to go on safari in 2 countries. So, starting off our morning with a pair of spotted hyena, always around the Talek River Valley. And if I'm quiet for a second, There's hyenas whooping. Ooh. There, it's that one down there, Craig. Can you see it? It's behind the impala. Not that one. There's 4 of them here. It's not that one. It's the one that's whooping is right down there behind the impala. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Can you hear that there, Faith? Okay, it might be a little bit far away. I can hear it clearly, although now I can hear balloons powering up as well. So that is the Talek River Valley. And our plan today, apart from finding spotted hyenas, is to go and search for my favorite spotted cheetah, as opposed to, the unspotted cheetah. That didn't really make sense. So I'm going off in search of Imani. Brent had her yesterday. And my plan for the morning is to go and find her. Brent is going to go and see if he can find the 5 cheetah boys that we left yesterday afternoon. We had to leave them. The weather was coming in. It was barreling in at a rate of knots, and it looked terrifying. What it was slightly less terrifying. It was a drizzle. But it's really hard to predict what the weather's going to do out here. So what I have to do is go and find Brent's sneaky river crossing. Because otherwise what I would have had to do is go all the way around over that ridge over there. And that would have taken me away from all of you for a good half an hour. So my plan is to go through the sneaky river crossing. That's the idea. How it's going to work in practice, well, I've never been through the sneaky river crossing. So let's find out. Lovely question from Philip. Let's quickly stop and look at this, I think, gentleman over here, although I'd be hard-pressed to call a male hyena a gentleman. Let's have a look at this hyena here. Very, very good question, Philip, and you're right. I should have actually touched on that. So all hyenas do whoop, absolutely, regardless of rank or status, but a very, very large percent, the vast majority of territorial whooping, so woo, that sound, is done by the clan males. So while the females do whoop, especially if they find other rival clans, or if perhaps they're calling in support to chase away a lion from a kill or a cheetah from a kill, or whatever the circumstances happen to be, most of the territorial whooping will be done by clan males. Now, the amazing thing about hyenas is their sheer number of vocalizations. So the name laughing hyena came from the sound that they make when they're excited or giddy or nervous, and that is a high-pitched cackling sound. That sounds a great deal like laughter. That's where their nickname came from. And you can imagine how it contributed to their somewhat sinister reputation. Just because it is a sinister sound. Imagine being out in the dark, not comfortably in the vehicle, but out in the dark and listening to the sounds of the vegetation and the bush and the quiet, and then all of a sudden you hear this cackling sound. You can sort of see how it might be, or would have been interpreted as something really very sinister and quite frightening. The same applies for the whooping, especially when it's very close to you. Now, when we hear it from afar, it just sounds like, woo, pretty harmless, actually quite lovely sound. When you're up close to the hyena calling, it starts as a growl. It's almost like a roar. It's a when you're up close to it, and it's very powerful. You can actually, we talk about lions and feeling the vibration of a lion's roar in your chest when they roar next to you. The hyenas call, a deep hyena whoop you'll feel as well if you're right up close to them. I love it, personally. It's one of my favorite sounds. And I think, if I do say so myself, I do quite a good hyena impression. It's one of the only animal impressions I'm actually any good at. Now, I don't know if Rolf and Noel have treated you to some entertaining impressions. It seems to be a semi-requirement for the presenters. Okay, our hyenas have disappeared, but we can continue talking about them in answer to Holden's question. Now, Holden's wondering if hyenas stay in one place or do they move around. They have a territory. A clan has a territory. A clan can be a very big thing out here. 100+ hyena. But they have a territory, and within that territory they'll have a couple of den sites. The den site is the social hub of the spotted hyena. So even if members of the clan don't have cubs, might be males, they'll still come and check in at the den, say hello to the females, make sure they still remember them so that they don't get attacked randomly one day. So they definitely move around. They have to go off in search of food, they have to go and patrol the territory, they have to move around, but they have a set territory, and that's generally speaking where they will be. And finding the den sites is a great way of getting an idea of the size of a hyena clan's territory, because to be honest, otherwise it's almost impossible to figure it out, because you've got one marauding hyena over there, now you've got to figure out, is he from that clan? And then you've got one over there, is he from the same clan? So what ends up happening for the researchers is they sit and go through lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of photographs, comparing the spots. I've done something similar trying to figure out, oh, this little Tommy's quite cute, let's just stop and have a quick look at it. I've done something similar with brown hyena. Now brown hyena are really difficult because they don't have spots. The only thing they have to identify them, unless they've got notched ears, is the striping on their legs, and that is tricky. Oh, little one, it's okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. You were sunbathing so beautifully in the sun. I just wanted to show everybody how camouflaged you were. Little nose going furiously. And the metronome tails. There you go, you've got a nice answer to Ellie Belly's question while we look at our antelope. Now, Ellie Belly's wondering if antelope will sleep standing up. They can doze standing up, yes. A lot of the time they will rest lying down, like these guys are. The thing about antelope is that they don't sleep very much. So they will take turns, especially at night, to doze. But you can imagine that falling fast asleep like we do for however many hours a night, however many hours you're fortunate enough to get, makes you incredibly vulnerable. You're an antelope sleeping out here in the open. Being out with lots of other animals, what's the matter? Have you forgotten how to lie down? Or is that just not a very good spot? I hate to say it, but it's all damp. Okay, try that spot. That'll do. That'll do. No, okay. If you're looking for a dry patch, you're not going to find one. I'm sorry, I don't know where my voice has gone this morning. Okay. Yes, there we go. No, alright, that one won't do either. Off we go here. So antelope don't sleep for long periods of time, and they don't sleep very deeply. Oh, little one. Nobody wants to let you lie down. So essentially what they've found doing research is that when antelope sit down and ruminate, which is where they lie down and they chew the cud, their brain waves resemble those brain waves of sleep. So essentially that ruminating process allows them to be upright, heads upright, looking around, but at the same time, oh, here comes another little baby Tommy, just in case that sleeping spot is better than the one it had. But essentially they're sleeping while they're ruminating, while they're awake, or at least their brain is going through that rest pattern that sleep is so necessary for. Ah. All thoughts of resting forgotten, it's breakfast time. Well, it still looks like it wants to lie down. A very odd body posture from that little one. What are you trying to do? All the adults quite content to rest and ruminate and sunbathe. Becker, not all antelope are classified as lambs when they're young, but a Thompson's gazelle would be called a lamb. So the difference is a size-based thing, and it's a minor linguistic difference, but essentially anything the size of an Inyala bull, a male Inyala, anything larger than that is called a bull or a cow, where when you've got something smaller, Impala, Thompson's gazelle, they are referenced as a ram and a ewe. Now, the little ones take their names from that. So when you've got a bull and a cow, then you have a calf. If you've got a ram and a ewe, then you've got a lamb. thought I'd said that wrong. No, I was right. Ram and you have a lamb. So it's a minor linguistic distinction, and it's based purely on the size of the antelope. It's interesting that you've got that distinction with antelope, and yet deer, what do you have? You have a hind and a... What on earth is a female deer called? Where's my brain gone? No, I know a baby's called a fawn, but what's a female? A hind? A hind is... Oh, a hind and a stag. I really am a little bit slow this morning. Please forgive me. The dogs of Talek had a singing competition last night in the middle of the night that then I was wide awake from around about 1 o'clock in the morning. They were howling like wolves. A hind and a stag and a fawn. There we go. It is a doe. What doe, a deer, a female deer? Oh no, now Kirsty's confused me completely. What's the difference between a hind and a doe? Help me. I'm sure I'm being very stupid. The brain is working furiously. I thought a hind was a female deer, but so is a doe. So what's the difference? Is doe a big deer? We know it's a deer, a female deer. We also know that Ray is a drop of golden sun. Me is the name I call myself, and Far is where the topies have gone. Okay, so a hind is a female deer, according to Kirsty, a red deer, over 3 years old. So what's a doe, apart from a female deer? Now I've tied myself in knots. I should never have brought up the matter of deer at all. Oh dear. Ha ha ha. Oh, fantastic. Okay, James is saying that they are interchangeable. Thank you, James. I'm thrilled to hear it. Great. It just doesn't have the same effect, does it? Hind, a deer, a female deer. Doesn't quite sound the same, does it? Let's go and find the secret river crossing before Imani has disappeared completely off the face of the planet. Okay, somewhere up ahead of me is this little secret river crossing that Brent says he's discovered. Hopefully it's still crossable after all the rain. But while we go and investigate it and avoid becoming the next Marshmallow Queen title holder, let's head across to Rolf, who apparently is also enjoying the soggy conditions of South Africa.
Okay, folks. We've been driving around looking for all sorts of things, anything that would be showing us quite a bit of life, but so nothing was really happening. We saw an impala run across the road. We did have a look to see if something might have been chasing him, but I think it might have just been him trying to round his females up again. But right here in front of us, we've got a termite mound with a tree growing out of it. Now, it's always an interesting sort of debate. What came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first here? Was it the tree or was it the termite mound? Now, when we look at what's happening with the rain at the moment, it does sort of give us a little bit of a clue as to maybe what happened. When it rains, the water sort of runs down the trunk of a tree, and it does make the soil around the base of the trunk quite wet, quite moist, and would make quite a good sort of place for termites to start their mound. You know, when they are in their alate phase, when they get their wings and they start to fly off to start a new colony, they would obviously meet. The male and females from different colonies would meet normally at a stopping point, which a trunk of a tree would be one of those points. So that's where they would start to dig and start to make their new colony from the king and queen, or the primary reproductives. But if we also think that if there was the termite mound to start with, you get all sorts of animals that will use that as a perching site, especially monkeys and baboons and birds who would come and sit on top. It's an ideal place for them to get a bit of a point of view and see what's going on in the area, and then they defecate, or they're feeding on that fruit at the moment, and they would then drop the seeds down into the termite mound, and then you can have the plants growing from there. So, these are all fungus cultivating termites, and they are making a massive chamber underneath the ground. This is literally a chimney that they've got coming up out of the ground like that, and below that they've got a even bigger chamber where they've got this whole fungus garden which they've got underground. So with them bringing all the soil up from under the ground, it's also making this a very good nutrient hotspot. So very interesting that the tree would then obviously grow from there as well. So, which came first? It's actually both mutually beneficial for both of them. And these termites, the reason that they make this big chimney like that is that it is very important for them to keep the temperature at a very good constant level, very warm down underground, nice and dark, nice and warm for the cultivation of the fungus. Now, each termite species, we get a lot of different termite species that do cultivate fungus. They have a specific fungus that is specific to the species of termite, and it has evolved over so many millennia that you do not get the species of termite without the species of fungus. So this is a obligatory mutualism. Without one, the other one doesn't survive. Take one away, and the other species will then not survive. And the reason they have this fungus is because these termites, they collect grass clippings from the surrounding area, but in those grass clippings, this is the food base that these termites are after, but they cannot digest the cellulose within the grass. So they've gotten around that. They then make these fungus gardens underneath the ground where they are literally feeding the fungus they place the grass with the fungus, and this then is digesting that cellulose, and the termites are then gaining the vegetable food and vegetable matter that they can digest with the help of the fungus. So it is absolutely incredible for me, this relationship between the two. And with them bringing up all these nutrients from way below the soil, it's making then another ecological system with these trees growing out of them, and it's absolutely fascinating. So after periods of rain like this, you can very often have the alates, which will then come out, which is your primary reproductives. They will then, those primary reproductives are male and females, will gain wings, and this is how they start to populate new areas. They gain wings, and they take some of those spores of the mushroom from the mother colony, and they will then fly off. And they do want to mix genes, obviously, otherwise that genetic pool would stagnate. So they want to meet other reproductives from different colonies, and you also want that mixture of genes of the fungus as well. So you'll have a male and a female, which, if one of the termites lands on the ground, what they do is the females will put their little bums in the air and they wave it, releasing a pheromone, and the males will follow this scent trail to a different female. Once he meets up with the female, they literally just a couple of shakes and they drop their wings. And at that point is when they start to dig down and start to create a new colony, literally just with a tiny little mound like that. And that is how they then move on to having a completely new colony, started all over again, and a very, very, very important part of this ecological system. So at this time of year, this is when we're going to be expecting, after a little bit of rain, these alates start coming out of the termite mounds. Now, that is also important to increase the population of the termites, but you will see a lot of animals such as birds and frogs. They will sit at the openings of these termite mounds, and as these termite alates are coming out, they will be feeding on them. So not just for the vegetation, also for a lot of animals, excellent food source, excellent protein. Okay, folks, I'm going to continue on along the road, see what we can find, but I think Jamie has some jackal to show you.
Look at this, we've got a couple of little jackals being very playful this morning. And the one running around looks to be a pup to me. And it was actually doing a bit of begging earlier, trying to get some food out of the adult. Come on, take me to my breakfast, please. Where'd you go? Well, let's get a little bit closer to them. But isn't that awesome? Good morning. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Manu on camera. And we're on our big cat search. It's 1-1 so far. Remember, if you have any questions for us, hashtag Safari Live. And we're very excited to have you all on Safari with us this morning. Now, we are looking for the 5 boys, the 5 boy cheetahs, that is. They have... where Jamie had them was not too far from here last night, so we're just checking some of their favorite hangouts. But while we're doing that, oh, where'd that jackal go? There it is. The jackal are still playing up ahead, full of the joy of morning. So there you go, that's a sub-adult. Trying to get the adult to play. The adult's not so interested. Off they go again. Speedy Gonzalez. Play with me, why won't you play with me? Oh, running around in the bushes there. Oh, it is another gorgeous morning here in the Masai Mara. And as I said, we're looking for the 5 boys. This is a very good area to look for them. They spend quite a lot of time here. There's a lot of wildebeest around. There's a lot of Thompson's gazelles. There's a lot of zebra, all of which fall within their sphere. Oh, ostriches. Let's get a bit closer. Seems like everything's running around this morning, the ostriches included, so let's get a bit closer to them. Looks like there could be a bit of mating displays going on. So I saw a male behaving like a madman. The female seems to have made good her escape, put a bit of distance between them. Philip is wondering, can side-striped and black-backed jackals hybridized? There's never been a reported case of it to my knowledge, Philip, so it seems like not. And for a lot of the range, you don't get side-striped and black-backed jackals too much in the same area. The black-backed jackals tend to prefer a more open area, a more open grassland where there's a lot more carrion around, whereas side-striped jackals are far more omnivorous and spend a lot more time eating insects and fruit rather than meat. Oh, we got. Is she doing her flirting dance? Not really. I think she's just a bit damp. There was some rain last night. Shaking out the water and feeding as she goes. The male is busy sneaking up on her. Look at him prancing along. And when he's got that bright red coloration, it means it's time for breeding. Everyone seems to be full of the joy of morning this morning. Thompson's gazelles are busy munching away on their lovely short grasses that they do prefer. Now, I'm going to try and get some information from all my friends out there to see if we can find out where the 5 boys are. They're definitely not in this valley at the moment. Now, what is that car over there looking at on the opposite side of the valley? Very difficult to see. It's always good to just stop and check a valley very carefully like we've been doing to see if there's any potential big cats here. But this valley is looking a little bit empty. Habari asubuhi. Ya tano? Hapa. Sawa sawa, asante. Okay, I've got some news. Apparently around that car over there. Oh! We're trying to see if the cheetah are there. I'll be with you in a second. We're just live at the moment. Okay. Well, we've got some reports on the cheetah, so we're going to try and move around. I'm just going to go say hello. It sounds like we have a Safari Live fan close by. And it seems like I'm having a little bit of comms issues down here. Okay, well, it seems like I've lost my comms with final control. It could be I'm just a little bit too low. So we're going to send you across to I'm not sure who. So let's go find out.
Morning, Brent. Morning, Jamie. Hope you're enjoying your sunshine. Our cloud cover has lifted a little bit. Jamie, I'm sorry, I cannot actually do hyena calls very well. It is not one of my talents to be able to mimic a hyena, unfortunately. I can try. Whoop, whoop. That's about all I got. Alright, so we also saw a hyena, but he meandered off. And then we've done most of the area where we were thinking Hasana might be. And we're just not really picking up anything, unfortunately. So while Brent is busy chasing after, I'm not quite sure what he saw in the distance, we are going to carry on. Woohoo! Elephant tracks. Hello. Now, this is a different type of tracking, and I'm going to do my best to position us, because we have a roof on because it's raining, so it's a little bit harder. So I'm going to put everything in the very, very front of the car, and then I'm going to try and show you how different these tracks are. So when you get rain and then it falls on the ground, and then it gets not hard, but it gets a little bit more difficult. What you're basically seeing is you're seeing the soil that's being trapped on the bottom of the foot and then moved. So it's just a little darker patch. This is the back side of the elephant track there. Okay, the front side is just in here and just in there. Looks like a single male to me, and basically what he's doing is he's walking and doing his normal tracks like this and heading down that way. So I would imagine, because we've just picked them up now, I would imagine that he's moved maybe a little bit farther into the block to our east. So we can definitely check on that. I do know that there was a request for elephants this morning, but he definitely didn't pop up on the road behind us. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably come up and then we'll come back down like this and see if we can find him. But it is relatively fresh. Definitely gone up there. The clouds are definitely lifting up much higher. We're also cresting a bit, and so the rain is not falling on us as heavily as it was. I can see a bit. I'll turn you all so you can also see. You see how it's lifting off the sides there. So there are parts where it looks like there's still quite a bit of moisture falling, but then in general everything is pushing up. So it's good. It's very good. It's good for wildlife viewing, because if anything was wet and hiding, they're gonna stop hiding where the wet drips on them and move out into the open. So our jobs now are just to be where they are to find them. And then once the sun comes out, yes, we're gonna get some beautiful green grass popping up. still checking our trees, still checking for tracks of those cheeky leopards. I'm still convinced that Tundi is back in her den site, and Hasana, who knows? I'm surprised he's not called Houdini, that little Hasana. Well, he's not that little, he's actually quite large. Sorry, Kirst? Kirst says Houdini is his second name. Yeah, Kirst, I definitely agree with that. Let me just check this quickly. We've also seen a little bit of Nyala sort of meandering off into the thickets. But in general, it's been quite a quiet morning, and you would expect a quiet morning with weather like this. Similar to us, I don't know how you all are on a rainy, cold morning, but for me, well, it's not that cold, but coldish. For me, I definitely like to snuggle up. I like to snuggle up with a good book. Billy has rhymed my name with umbrella. He says, get out. Say it again, Chris. Get out your umbrella, Noella. Thank you, Billy. And now I have that umbrella song in my head. Umbrella, Ella. I can't sing. Please don't. The dogs in Stubukani will start howling. Oh, Billy, thank you for the giggle today. Thank you for the big giggle. Okay, you need a laugh on a drizzly morning like today. Okay, so other than our hunt for Hasana and our hunt for elephants, is there anything else that people are hoping will pop up to say hello this morning? That looks routinely fresh. I actually think I'm not far from Ralph. I can see vehicle tracks doing interesting little vehicle things around a termite mound. Sorry, I'm gonna try. There is a beautiful view. Why do you have to fly away? There was a gorgeous kingfisher, woodland kingfisher, and of course as I back up he's moved off. Okay. Birding is interesting. I've been contemplating this over the past few weeks and trying to catch what I see fly past me on camera is very interesting. Basically, you have to request something that wants to fly and move around to survive to sit extremely still so that we can so that we can view it. It's a very narrow space we have in which to show you what we are seeing, and so I've been thinking in my head about ways in which to mitigate these factors of these beautiful flying creatures. I have not come up with a solution yet, but I'm sure a solution will come. Well, so now the rain's lifted, but the wind has come. We're all going to be blown away. So we came up, our elephant was moving this way. So as we are trying to find this elephant for you, let's head on over to Rolf and see if he is in fact close to me or on the other side of Juma.
Folks, we did pick up on a little bit of fresh elephant activity. So the tracks did head off the road, but we do know a little bit of the area that they went in, so I'm just trying to anticipate where they maybe moved towards, and then we'll head across onto the other side of this drainage line on our right hand side and see if we can pick up on them. Now, I've spent a lot of my time of my guiding years up in the northwestern areas of Namibia, and this is where we find the desert elephants, which are, the same species, Loxodonta africana. They can mix with your average elephants that you would find, for instance, in the Kruger National Park or in the Tosha National Park, and you've got viable offspring. It's just that they are adapted to living in very dry conditions, and I used to follow and trail those animals, but it's over much vaster distances than we do have here. So when we were tracking them up there, we used to have to pick up on reasonably fresh tracks, see which way they were moving, and we used to leapfrog and jump ahead and anticipate where they were going, normally from water point to water point. Obviously, as you can understand, in the desert, that is what one of the biggest requirements for elephants is their water requirement. Added to that with the food, but that's the biggest requirement for them. So normally elephants can drink up to over 100 liters of water a day. However, the desert elephants, they can go up to 4 or 5 days without water, which is absolutely incredible. But when they do drink after that, obviously they would then need to drink a lot of water. So that's quite incredible. But going between water points was how we used to anticipate where they were moving. And after the rainy period as well, they used to move out of the sort of ephemeral river oasis that run through the desert, and then they would move into the community lands, and that's when they come into conflict with humans. So, but those village people, they live in that area. They've been living there for hundreds of years as well, so they do understand elephants on quite a natural level. But they do have conflict, and it's normally around the water. So what happens is those elephants generally come in and they drink from the people's water point as well. But unfortunately, they like the trees and that they do like to play with. They do like to pull it down, and they generally do the same with their water points and their windmills that are pumping the water up. So it's that's where the conflict comes in, and if the elephants keep on damaging the people's water source, obviously eventually the people are going to get really angry with the elephants and want to eliminate the problem, because it is affecting their survival too. So there are some lovely organizations that do go in there and they help the people building protection around their water points, and this in turn then assists both people and the animals, because the elephants are able to come in and drink, but they don't damage the water point. And then they're also trying to train the locals to be guides so that they can bring in an income, which is then directly giving them an advantage for having those elephants around. Another big problem that those people do have as well is that they try to grow some vegetables out there in the desert. As you would imagine, you're trying to get your food source locally as well. And what happens is the elephants come for a drink and they see a lovely food source, nice vegetables, etc. right there, lovely snack place. And big animals like elephants, they can be quite destructive. So they have a drink and they have a feed and they destroy everything. Big problem. So those same organizations that help to build those protective structures around the water and assist in training the guides, they also show the people that there are alternative methods to push elephants away from these vegetable gardens, such as planting chilies around the edge. And because their sense of smell is incredibly high. So there's always ways to manage human-wildlife conflict. We just need to think of alternative methods, and then we can let them live in harmony. So we're going to continue looking for these elephants. I think Brent has got something lovely to show you in the Mara.
Well, hello, and we have a surprise for you all as it comes out the vast open plains of the Masai Mara, and the 5 boys in a huddle. Oh, they're not looking too fat, so they might have caught something last night, something a bit small. Have a look at their bellies. It looks like they're having a lazy lion of a morning. They're right out in an open plain, not far from where Jamie left them last night. Now, there was quite a lot of rain and storms last night, so that might have affected their hunting. So, because of the high winds and rain and it being very dark on those nights, cheetah tend to try avoid any conflict because the lions and leopards and hyenas love hunting on those nights. So they might not have made a kill at all, and we might be in for a treat because it's a bit of a cloudy morning here in the Mara. Exact right time, and there's a bit of grooming, a bit of yawning. Is it nearly time to get on the hunt? At the moment, it is just a pile of cheetah. Oh, look at that. Huddled together for warmth after the cold night last night. It was pretty chilly last night. Now, remember, any questions? Hashtag Safari Live. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Well, those ostriches and Thompson's gazelles are not too far away, probably about half a kilometre across the valley. And we said it pays to go very slowly and check all these valleys in case you miss something. Fortunately, this morning we did not. It always helps to have a little bit of inside information as well. And we got that from a Safari Live fan. Nazi is wondering, are cheetah usually this affectionate? In the male coalitions, yes. They can be very, very affectionate with each other. They can also scrap with each other. So, female cheetah will generally only be affectionate with their cubs. And then you have the occasion where females from the same litter will leave. They'll stay together for 6 months to a year before splitting, and they can also be very affectionate with each other. But the male coalitions are always incredibly affectionate because those bonds need to last for life. Oh. Where are my binoculars? Oh, there they are. Sorry, I was just fiddling around. I just wanted to have a quick look what else was about. Some Thompson's gazelles, some zebra, some topi. So there are options around, but as often we're going to have to play the patience game. It's a fun game to play, isn't it, Manu? And I'm just happy the wind's not howling today. I think there's a good chance they're going to get up and move, especially in this cool weather. Octo Girlie's wondering, what's the giant bone behind them? I'm going to just go off to the right and then I can have a look. I'm pretty sure it's a buffalo, but I need to look at the skull. Yes, it was a buffalo. So that's the remnants of a buffalo's boss, a very, very old buffalo. Well, the bones are very, very old. But on these open plains, they're often very much littered with bones. So we've got a retired buffalo over there, and it looks like we've got a retired wildebeest over there, and all around us there are bones from when the migration was here. So that looks like wildebeest there. Well, we can have a look. Oh, maybe not. No, it is a wildebeest. Definitely a wildebeest. But the big bone there is more than likely from a buffalo. And then you can see that from that decomposing piece of buffalo skull. Look at that. Aren't they just wonderful? Rolling, rolling, stretching. Ashlyn's wondering, where do cheetahs go to take cover from the stone? Right here. Storm. Right here, Ashlyn. They don't want to be in thickets where lions and stuff can surprise them. So they go sit in the middle of an open plain and huddle together if there's enough of them. We are just very, very spoiled to be able to spend the time we do with these boys. Lickety, lickety. Oh, look at that toe stretch there. Spreading those toes. And you can see that claws just sticking out. Hi, Lily, who's 6 years old. Lily would like to know, do hyena and cheetah spots make them more visible from far away? No, Lily, actually the opposite. It helps break up their outline and makes them more difficult to see. So it is a help in hiding from things. So those spots, make sure they're not one solid color. So it does make them more difficult to see. So it helps them hide from other predators. Oh, yes, they still look quite hungry. It might take a little bit of time to wake up after that chilly, wet, windy night. Now, as we say, patience game we will play. So while we wait for the cheetah to get up and get moving, it seems like that Noel is also looking for elephants.
Brent, I am. I'm looking. We've done the area where Hasana was seen yesterday the best we can. Not picking up any tracks, unfortunately. So we are going to head west. Billy and I have decided we're going to go west towards Triple M and see if we can pick up on nkuhumas or wild dogs or who knows what. We're going to go on an adventure. What did you see, Vildy? Vildy has spotted something. Sorry, you saw, was it a bird?
That's a cuckoo, yeah.
Oh, it was a... Sorry, we've seen a cuckoo. Vildy's also on the hunt for the nemesis bird with us. The Kloss's cuckoo, which I believe Brent saw in the Mara yesterday, and then we've had a request for it also to be seen in Juma. So we're still on the hunt. We're still definitely on the hunt. I did see what you saw, Vildy, and it flew off, unfortunately. Okay. So it has stopped drizzling for the most part, which is absolutely fantastic. The cloud cover needs to stay for maybe just like half the day, if not the full day, just to get all the moisture soaked in to the soil, and then the sun can come out and then do its thing. Sorry, I'm just checking anything crossing, anything moving. I don't know if we'll be able to see it properly. I am going to try. I just want to show you all with the wind and where the rain was coming from. See there, Vildy, on the tree. Can we, yeah. Do y'all see how the left-hand side of the tree is wet and the right-hand side is not? I've been seeing that as we've been driving around. So that means the wind was pushing sort of from the south and the west, and then moving north and a little bit east and pushing the moisture there. And that's how we're telling sort of what direction it was coming from now that the rain has stopped. So if you're ever curious about anything like that, you can use that with any sort of large dead tree. But I was even noticing it on the marulas when we were coming through around Cheetah cut line, having a look for that elephant that did not pop out of that block, unfortunately. There's our little fun observation for the day. Now I'm also hoping with this cloud cover, and now that the drizzle has stopped, we might get some termites out and about moving. So it's not something we always get to see, but it would be nice if we can find some to physically show you. Because we chat about termites often, we chat about termite mounds. They are an integral part of the ecosystem, especially with all the nutrient pooling that they do. And this would be some good weather for them to be moving around. They, for the most part, depending on the species of termite, but for the most part they get sort of, the sun bothers them, it burns them. So they tend to move when it's cooler at night, things like that, and also under the ground, which is why they build the mounds the way that they do. Curse is the question, do termites have live colonies and nests? Am I hearing you correctly? Ooh. So, Becca, you're asking, are all termite mounds active? So yes, Becca, all those mounds are active. When a mound is not active anymore, there is no existing mound anymore. It's just a bare spot. And I've seen several of those when I worked up in Zambia. You could see where they've collapsed. Yes, all those mounds are active, indeed. So just because it looks dormant to us, it looks like it's not active from the outside, inside it's very, very, very active. And you'll start to see, the more rain we get, you'll start to see sort of darker parts with where the new soil is being pulled out from the inside and put onto the outside. Excuse me. You'll see that more and more because obviously as the moisture comes in, soil falls in and then they have to remove the soil. But yes, good question. Vildi, I think our rain has gone. So Vildi and I are actually, shame, I wish I could show you guys. Vildi's enclosed in the back. We've got our roof on and then we've got all the there we go. That's what it looks like to be Vildi in the back. So all Vildi can see is basically my head and the very, very front. And he very much enjoys looking for wildlife with me. So he's feeling, are you a little bit claustrophobic back there, Vildi? Yeah, Vildi's a little bit, I'm sorry, buddy. Soon, we'll lift the flaps soon. So now that the rain's lessened, we can roll up the flaps and then it'll be all nice and open and then Vildi won't feel like he's inside a man cave in the back there. Oh, Ralph apparently is driving backwards. I wonder why. Let's go have a look and see.
Okay, folks, as I said, we did pick up on nice fresh elephant tracks. We've also got our evidence here on the front. We've got a poop on board, nice and fresh. Don't worry, I will be throwing it back to the elements. I just wanted to show you that we've got some lovely fresh elephant dung here on board. As my evidence, I'm not lying, I promise you, we are getting closer to them. We've just lost the trail now. They've gone off the road, so we're just doing a little bit of a process of elimination, just checking some areas, see if we can see. I want to start by heading up to the higher areas first, and then we'll make our way down towards the drainage line where I think they might have gone, but we just want to eliminate first if they didn't head up a little bit more up onto a higher area. I do have a feeling though that they've gone down, but always need to be checking just to make sure. So it seems like it's a group of 5 to 8 animals. There's definitely a baby with them, at least one. So he's not a tiny baby, but he's probably around a year or so. So because we can see from the small little dung. So it's definitely a breeding herd. Whether or not there's any males with them, it remains to be seen. I hope we can pick up on them, hope we can find them, and then we'll see from there. But as I've said, we're just having a quick little check up top here, and then we're going to start to head down towards that drainage line. No tracks up here for the moment. Just going to have a sneaky peek just along here. You know, if they did cut across a block, then we just head along a straighter road and just check if they haven't crossed over onto that one. But for the time being, it's still building up that anticipation. We've got the tracks, we're getting closer. Now we've lost the trail a little bit, but we don't give up. That's the same as what I was talking about with those free-ranging elephants in the Namib Desert. You're always picking up on the clues, trying to find out where they've moved. You know, here in the Kruger National Park, as I was saying to Sebastian a little bit earlier, it can take a few hours for us sometimes, maybe a day at the most, to find the elephants once we pick up a fresh track in the Kruger Park. But out in the desert, sometimes we track elephants there for 5 to 7 days. It can take that long for us to find them. So a completely different area. They move vast distances up in the Namib Desert. Okay, folks. Unfortunately, I've got no content and no elephants in front of us at the moment, but we're building up for that. And while I continue with that and trying to find them for you, I think Jamie's got the nice open plains in the Mara for you.
Don't worry, Ralph, I don't have any cheetah. So I've arrived at the point where, or at the place where Imani was yesterday with Brent, and wouldn't you know it, she's not here. I didn't really expect her to be, but it was a good place to start. All we've got is some trotting warthogs that have come barreling out of the dense guarri thickets up ahead. Lots of Tommies, lots of very relaxed-looking Tommies. That doesn't necessarily mean she's not still here. If they haven't spotted her, or if they have spotted her and they know she's lying down, you'll often find that prey species, whether it's an antelope or a warthog or whatever it happens to be, prey species are often comfortable in the presence of a predator that they can see is relaxed, and they, well, most importantly they can see, but also that they can see is not getting up anytime soon. Better to see the predator and keep an eye on it than not know where it is. So it's not uncommon to find prey species and predators in very close vicinity, and I've often seen people driving around Kruger, or spoken to people, and I've been looking for something, or they've asked me a question and they've said to me, no, but there's so many impala here, they can't be here. They're not really entirely accurate. I don't know where she's gone though. Needle in a haystack again, and unfortunately this area is so rocky, even with all of the rain last night, which might have helped us if we could have found at least a track or two in the mud, pointing us in the right direction. But if she's gone down there, no way. There's no way we'll find her unless we get very lucky. What is that? Sitting with my binoculars, scanning every potential cheetah mound and rock. So Craig and I have spotted a fair few cheetah. Quite a few. Which turned out to be rocks. Very pretty view though, is it not? Lovely. Direction of Sekanani and then of course Tanzania. Oh, Lady Starfire, I'm really sorry to hear that. Let's keep going while we chat about Lady Starfire's question. Now, Lady Starfire is wondering if it's possible to book a safari where you avoid a certain animal. So Lady Starfire says that she's got an intense phobia of elephants, and would obviously prefer to avoid them on safari. It'd be tricky to do. You'd have to notify them well in advance. You're probably looking at a specific safari, and even then, the guide would tell you that there's no guarantee that you don't encounter an elephant. And it'll be tricky because if there's other people on the safari, they can't compromise it. Unless you find a whole load of, what would you call somebody who's afraid of elephants? Pachyphobe? No, you would not. Definitely not. Well, whatever it would be. Elephant phobes. If you manage to pack a vehicle full of elephant phobes, it might work. But of course, you're probably going to find yourself on a safari vehicle with, unless you book out the whole safari vehicle, with people who do want to see elephants. But you could book out the whole vehicle, yes, and then you could ask the guide to please avoid them. But there would be, I know that if somebody asked me that, I would say to them, there's no guarantee that we won't encounter an elephant. I can't make that promise. I just can't. Because there's always a chance if I go over the next ridge. Pair of elephants is called pachydermy phobia. Phobia. Pachydermy phobia. Craig? Phobia. Okay, Chris, I was trying to work out how phobia became phobia. Okay, so I wasn't that far off. Just mildly offensive. Pachydermy phobia. But there'd be no guarantee, if I'm honest. I certainly would tell you that there was always a chance of going round the corner and encountering elephants. Not that I've seen a single elephant since I came across the river. They all seem to be on the triangle side. Pachydermophobia. 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 I'm sad to hear that you've got an intense phobia of elephants, but I understand. My brother's terrified of elephants. And I'm not very kind to him in that regard. He's fine when they're far away, but I've had a few times with him in the car where he's been telling us to drive away in Kruger. I don't quite know where it stems from. We have the same exact upbringing, same background. There we go. So Lady Starfire, you say that you'd really like to go on safari, but you know your own personal limitations, which is always a good thing. Knowing oneself is important in life, and you can't ever have anybody tell you that you're wrong, because you know yourself better than anyone else. But you could sit in the middle, absolutely. And what you want, rather than avoiding elephants, is to have a guide who takes you not close at all, keeps you at a distance from the elephants if possible, and helps you to, in theory, immersion therapy. Try and recover from your deep-seated fear of the ellies. But maybe at a distance you'd feel more relaxed if you knew that the elephants were far away, or perhaps even with a big water hole in front of you. So there are circumstances that one could engineer as a guide. And I have had people who are very, very scared of elephants. I've had people who are very scared of a lot of things. Bugs are the big one. Bugs are the difficult one to deal with, and spiders, because you can't really control that. But I have had people, and I've found that without mocking them or being blasé about it or dismissing their fears, you can actually get to the point where those people are relatively comfortable with the animal that they used to be scared of. I think it's possible, personally, but you know yourself, and you know what it is that you would want to get out of a safari as well. Okay, well, I search for this cheetah. I don't know where she's gone. I'm going to try and make my way towards double crossing. Let's send you back over to Ralph in Juma, who presumably isn't scared of elephants, but still hasn't found any.